All right, everyone. Thank you to everyone who tweeted and highlighted this to us, because MSNBC messed up Andrew Yang's chyron yet again. Let's throw the image up there on the screen. They say billionaire Andrew Yang puts universal basic income to the test. Few problems here. Andrew Yang is not a billionaire. In fact, as some of the people have been highlighting, he's one of the lowest net worths on the entire Democratic stage. I think he's only beaten by Pete Buttigieg there. It's crazy, Krystal, that after screwing up the graphic on CNBC, same organization, right? Not news organization, but same umbrella organization, screwing up the graphic on MSNBC, calling him John Yang, leaving him off graphics, completely dismissing the campaign. After the boycott, the boycott MSNBC, all of that, they still mess up basic facts about the man. This would be like saying Congressman Cory Booker. They would never do that. They would just absolutely never. It would never happen.
Right.
Or Alderman, Mayor Pete, Alderman Pete. It's like that's basically what's happening here. It's crazy.
Well, and it's like, okay, I get it. There were a lot of candidates in the
one
race.
time. Okay.
There were a lot of candidates. Okay. Getting all the names and faces in their bio right. Okay. At the beginning. Maybe.
Yes.
Maybe. We are coming down to it here. There are no longer that many candidates in the race. Just getting their basic biographical details right is really not that hard. And I wanted to ask you actually too, because this is some of the undercurrent. It's so hard to peg any one of these things to like bias or potential sort of, implicit bias or racism. But there's something there with like the Asian guy and assuming he's a billionaire, and the fact that on CNBC they just picked a different Asian man who had the last name Yang to use. It just seems like there's this consistent kind of overtone or undertone in terms of his Asian American
It's implicit bias. That's what it is. It's the implicitness of Silicon Valley, Andrew Yang, venture, he must be a billionaire, right? It's just like these baked-in ways.
Tech billionaire.
There's a way to cover an Asian tech billionaire. CNBC knows how to do that. MSNBC knows how to do that. They don't know how to handle an Asian guy running for president on a working class message that is fundamentally anti-neoliberal in its diagnosis. It does not compute for them.
Right.
And so then they just keep using their baked-in assumptions and their baked-in ways of talking about race and their baked-in ways of covering Asians in order to put it on the screen. That's how these things happen. It's about a cascading level of errors, of implicit biases that make their way into this. And the real question is why does nobody at this news organization, why do so many people at other news organizations not have the cognizance to just say, he's a real person. He's a serious candidate. Let's just treat him with the same respect that we treat everybody else.
Yeah.
Why is that so out of step for them? It's mystifying at this point.
It's embarrassing. I mean, think about Andrew Yang, who really part of his campaign, his ethos is to talk to anyone who's going to be respectful, who's down for a substantive conversation, and he'll go on Fox News. He'll go
anywhere.
He'll go
Dave Rubin show.
And anywhere he thinks he can get a fair hearing. And that MSNBC was so patently unfair to him that he actually had to announce, like, I'm not doing this anymore. Just tells you everything about the carelessness and the oversight of their coverage. I thought it was really interesting when we had Wes Yang on and he was talking about this. And part of what he brought up is this erasure is in part because they can't wrap their heads around the idea of a charismatic leader who's an Asian man. Like, it just doesn't, like you said, it just doesn't compute. It doesn't fit with the stereotypes. So they'd rather just hit ignore, even though I've made the case here. I think he's one of the most interesting stories of this cycle. I think he's more interesting even than his polling would indicate. And we can't forget that the media coverage and the polling is very much linked, right? If you're an outsider candidate, the most important thing is credibility, is getting people to believe you've got a shot, getting people to believe that you are a serious candidate, that you should be taken seriously. And if the most of the media doesn't treat you that way, it creates a much higher burden and hurdle for you to overcome to get those polling numbers, to be on the debate stage, to have a real shot going into Iowa, et cetera. So there's no doubt in my mind that this consistent lack of coverage and careless coverage and smears at times of Andrew Yang has definitely hurt his campaign.
Yeah, it absolutely has. Well, we were talking about this earlier in the show, but Andrew Yang is arguably not up on the Democratic debate stage because of the elite media obsession about impeachment. That the polls that would have been done in order to make him qualify for this debate were instead done to poll the impeachment of the general public, an issue of very little importance to the majority of this country. And over again, they've discounted a person who has broken the Overton window so far in such a short period of time in the Democratic Party, and whose positions and platforms and diagnoses will be with us for decades to come. AI, automation, and all these other things are things that we are going to be hearing about, the problems of the future. I think Yang likes to say that his campaign is like he's running in the year 2030, and I think that really deserves a lot of respect from the media. It's just sad to see them continue to do this, but we're going to be covering it every time they do.
You know, they'd know all the details about like everyone who's a player in the Ukraine stuff, and they've devoted their mind share to that rather than focusing on the issues that Andrew Yang brings up, or even the very basic facts of his name, face, and net worth. All right, we'll have more for you after this.